Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at the 45th Annual Toronto International Film Festival. My name is Ravi Srinivasan. I'm one of the Canadian programmers. We're really excited to have the world premiere screenings of Tracey Deer's Beans. As you join us today, we encourage you to reflect on the land that you are on, who the traditional keepers of the land are, what the treaty relationship is, or if it's unceded territory. We are located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. The territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and we are grateful to work on this land. A sincere thank you to our sponsors who have made this incredibly difficult festival possible, and so we definitely want to thank all those support that we've received throughout this year. That'll be Bell, our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oreal Paris, and Visa, and to our major supporters, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Ontario for their continued support. I just want to let everyone know that this film, TIFF has a commitment to engaging youth in the festival's programming, and this film has been selected by the next generation of film lovers by the TIFF Next Wave Committee. The TIFF Next Wave Committee is supported by the Slate Family Foundation Learning Fund. TIFF Next Wave programming is supported by the City of Toronto and the Ontario Arts Council. Thank you to our members and donors. If you would like to become a member, you can help us create more informed, engaged, and connected world. For more details, visit tiff.net/join. This film is eligible for the People's Choice Award. You can vote for this film Beans following the film at tiff.net/vote. This film is also eligible for the Amplified Voices Award presented by Canada Goose. We'd like to thank Mongrel Media and Wasabi Films for providing us with the film. And a sincere thank you to sponsor of today's screening by an emerging artist and one of our major partners, RBC Royal Bank. And on behalf of Dave Mackay, President and CEO, we welcome all of the RBC guests that are here today and throughout the festival. There will be a Q&A after this screening with Tracey, but there's also a special pre-recorded Q&A that is living on our YouTube page, so you can check out that extended content after the film there. Tracey Deer is a Mohawk filmmaker. Her previous work has been in the documentary world with the highly regarded and critically acclaimed Club Native, as well as Mohawk Girls, which was the same name of a very successful television show that ran for 7 years. And this is her first narrative feature. This film tackles one of the darkest moments in our country's modern history, as it's dubbed the Oka Crisis. And it's the first narrative to tackle this issue. And Tracey has courageously taken us back to this moment in her community's time, but also brought us to her own experience as well. And it's deeply emotional, but also brilliantly crafted in the way she fuses her documentary expertise into this highly powerful drama. And we're really thrilled to have Tracey here. Please welcome the director of Beans, Tracey Deer.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. This is definitely a very VIP screening. You guys are the most special to have braved our very extraordinary times to come out here. I really, really appreciate it. I do have a few special guests within the special guests in here that I would like to shout out to. My mother, my sister, my auntie, and my nieces, and my husband are here, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without their love and support. Our star, Kiawentiio, and her parents, I can't see them. They are here as well. And this really was a family affair. Kiawentiio is the star, and you're going to see her in every single scene in this film. She's extraordinary. I can't wait for you to meet her on the screen and then afterwards. But this really was such a family affair, and her parents, Barb and Corey, I mean, thank you both so much for everything you brought as well. And then my co-writer and co-executive producer, Meredith Vushnik, is here as well. And we have been on this journey together for about 10 years it took to make this film. And I couldn't have done this without you, sweetheart. So thank you for being who you are, and thank you for all of your support and all of your love and all of your genius that you brought to this project. We did it. We're here, you guys. This project also goes back 30 years for me, because it is something I lived through when I was 12 years old. So this is a very exciting and nerve-wracking time for me. You will see some disturbing scenes, and so I did want to advise you to please do what you need to do for your own mental and emotional health at any point. If you do need to walk out, if that's what you need, of course I understand. So please just bear that in mind and take very good care of yourself, especially for the younger, if there are younger audience members here. That's all I have for now, and I look forward to talking to you later. Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Kiawentiio and the director of Beans, Tracey Deer.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll start off with a few questions, but please, if you have a question, put your hand up high and I'll come find you, and we'll repeat the question. Tracey, this is such a timely film, given what's happened over the last 6 months with protests around the world for the Black community, but also the Indigenous community here in Canada as well. Can you talk about, I know that this has been ruminating with you for several years, but I mean, just the timely nature of the release of this and completing the film, given the sort of state of the world we're in right now?
Yeah, so this has been in the works for 10 years, and the film you just watched now, in terms of the time period we're in, you would think watching it, wow, these filmmakers were just right on top of things. Like, how did they get this done? But we've actually been working on it for 10 years, and for Indigenous, Black, and people of color, this film and these themes have been a part of our lives every single day. So this is nothing new to us. However, I do think we are now in a time period where the rest of the world is tuning in and opening up to it. So the film we shot last fall was exactly this, but I think of it differently, because the film we shot was one thing, and it was a hope that people would want to pay attention. And then as we were editing it and things were blowing up around the world, really, and in the United States big time, as we're finessing scenes, I just could not believe some of the scenes and the themes are just so current. And it makes me really upset that it's still just so damn current, because this was from 30 years ago. And have we not learned anything? Sadly not, but let's hope that this is a watershed moment and there is going to be learning and there is going to be change, so that these themes don't continue on for another 30 years.
Kiawentiio, terrific performance and just really a revelation. I'm wondering if you can talk about, I mean, the events that are depicted on the film, happened quite some time before you were born. And I'm wondering if you can talk about, how did you prepare for the project and the kind of research that you did and working with your family and your community and this big step and role for you?
So I sort of knew a little bit about the Oka Crisis before I even got the role or got the audition or anything like that. I kind of knew of it. Like I knew that there was a war in our neighboring community, but I couldn't really talk on it because I wasn't born. I wasn't even near to being born. But I did watch some documentaries on people's perspectives, and I had gotten my parents' their stories too. I mean, they weren't there, but of course they wanted to go. I mean, my dad was 15, and looking at it now, it's way, way bigger. Like, I knew that it was crazy, but I couldn't imagine being there.
Tracey,
But
do you
she
wanna-
did a really, really great job imagining it, didn't she? Yes.
Tracey, do you want to talk a little bit about the casting process and discovering Kiawentiio and sort of coming to this collaboration?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been asked that question a few times now, and I really wish I could say that I discovered her for this movie, but that is not the case. Kiawentiio, this is her second big role. She was in the third season of Anne with an E, which I was a writer and a co-producer on. So that is actually when we first met, and I was a part of that casting process as well. And as we were casting for that role, of course, Beans was coming. And as we were watching for the role with Anne with an E, of course, I was like, Beans casting. And early on in those 2 days together, I believe it was, right?
Yep.
Early on, I was like, oh, I think I see Beans in that one. And then as the 2 days went on and we did a second audition, she ended up winning the role in Anne with an E. When it came time to cast for our film, it is a much bigger role than Anne with an E, in a different role, a very dramatic role, highly dramatic role. Although Anne with an E was very dramatic as well. So I invited Kiawentiio. I asked her if she would audition, and she did. But we did also open it up to young women and young men to find all of the roles across the country. We ended up shortlisting about 22 kids for all 4 roles, and we brought them into Toronto for a 2-day workshop, which is what worked so well on Anne with an E. So we duplicated it here with an acting coach. And at the end of that, we did another audition process. And by the end of that, I was absolutely certain that she was meant to play this role. I did end up having more conversations with her parents and her to just really, I just wanted to really make sure that she knew what she was getting into, because once we started that train, we were on it, and it's a huge responsibility for a young woman to take on. And this incredible young woman was up for the challenge, and so were her parents, supporting her the whole way. And that's how it came to be.
Great. We'll take a couple of questions from the audience if we have any. Just put your hand up high and I'll repeat the question. Don't be
This
shy.
is good. This is good. They're stunned. They're stunned, and they're percolating on everything they felt and learned. Am I right? Yes.
I have a question for you. I mean, this is obviously very difficult material to sort of revisit and relive. And I think the one scene that certainly stuck out to me and probably the rest of the audience was, the scene with the rocks and driving through, that horrible experience. I wonder, can you talk about, the process of having to sort of write and then film and relive something that's so traumatic, but also so important to shed light on to people who didn't know that those kind of events existed. I'm wondering if you can just sort of talk about that development process there.
Absolutely. So this is a semi-autobiographical film, because the emotional journey that the character goes on is my coming of age journey that stretched from my adolescence into my early 20s. So she is fictional and her family is fictional, although the family is also inspired by my little sister who is in here, and my mother who is here as well. But they are a fictional family, and what they go through, I and my family did not experience every single one of those things. But the thing that we did experience was that scene. And in the writing process, which took about 8 years, for the longest time, that part of the script was just blank with rock scene, because I had so much resistance going back to that moment and writing it. And in the script, it's a 2-page scene, so it's very short. But for the longest time, I did not want to write it. And the few times I did say, okay, you need to put something down, I would have a physical response. I was shaking. I felt like I was going to throw up. And so then I just got up and walked away from my computer and said, you'll try tomorrow. That went on for quite a long time. And my co-writer, Meredith, who's also in the house here, can attest to that. And eventually I really did just have to do this. And so sat down. I sobbed the entire time. Every single moment and every single word was really right from my memory. And the shooting of it was just as difficult. Kiawentiio, you remember that day?
Yes, oh my goodness.
We did have social workers. We had 3 social workers from the community who came to support us and to support our Mohawk extras who were driving in the cars in front and behind the lead car. We also had a PTSD specialist on site. And it wasn't just for our Mohawk cast, but it was also for all of those extras you see who are so awful in the film, in the way that I needed them to be. They're all wonderful, lovely, big-hearted people who came out to shoot that. They all knew at the booking time what they were being booked for. Often extras are just called and booked for the day, and they show up and they have no idea what they're going to be doing that day. And it was very important to me that everyone coming, there was consent and awareness. So all of those extras knew what they were coming to do. I had a really good talk with them in the beginning of the day and said, in those moments, if you could just go to the darkest place inside and give us that, we can make a difference. I think we can make a difference with the film. But as soon as I yell cut, please shake that off and have the best time you could possibly have on this very difficult day. And so and we had to shoot again and again and again. So whenever the car had to be pulled back to first position, all those extras would be laughing and waving and cheering for the girls in the car. They were doing the wave as we drove by. It was the hardest thing I've ever shot in my whole life. But I think we did everything we possibly could to get through it and get through it intact. And I've said this in other interviews, but I've also said, I actually can't, I don't know. We'd have to ask the cast, we'd have to ask the crew, and all those support people were there for the crew as well. So we now have a cast member. We have the star right here. Kiawentiio, what do you think about that day? Did we get through it intact?
Well, that day was, of course, very difficult, but in several different ways. Of course, the scene that you're shooting and the emotion I have to bring to the screen is a really hard thing to do. But also, it was difficult technically because our camera lady, she had to fit herself in the car in the perfect position. So we had to piece it together. So like I didn't see Lily, I didn't see Rainbow, or my little sister, or Beans' little sister. So it was hard technically to imagine what you're seeing, because it's movie industry, everything is fake. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all of the actors, because and I was in the car as well because I needed to see what was going on and to speak with them. So all of the actors in the car all had to film that scene separate from each other. So Rainbow does not have her kids screaming and asking her questions. Viola, who plays Ruby in the back seat, did not have her older sister and her mom yelling and crying. They all had to do it separately. And I think once you see it all pieced together, I mean, that is the magic of movie making and their talent, that it all cuts together and you do believe they are all in that car interacting with one another. So I'm so proud of all of them. And it was such a rough day. All those rocks too, by the way, they're all foam. You know, again, the magic of movie making. Yeah. They're all foam, so they're not dangerous at all. And for the longest time in the edit, it kind of, as we were watching, it looked like potatoes, kind of tunk. And it was only once we got to the sound edit and my sound designer did his work that it just went to entirely another level.
Well, I can't imagine how difficult it would have been on that day for everybody involved, but mainly for yourself. And but we commend you, because that scene is going to resonate with audiences not only during this festival but for years to come. So applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have. But before we go, obviously, this is a very different TIFF year. This room would be full in a normal, non-pandemic year.
Ravi,
Yes. Oh, yes, go ahead.
question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That is exactly what we hope the film will do. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you. So before we go, it would be great, obviously, vote for the film after, but also spread the word. If people are asking, what to see at TIFF, tell them to go see Beans on the digital platform. That's where, many people can see it in a safe manner. So that's the best way to sort of spread the word on this film. But Tracey, Kiawentiio, thank you so much for bringing this film to Toronto and our audience and the festival. Everybody, Tracey Deer, Kiawentiio, Beans.
Thank you.
Thank you.